Hi everyone. Welcome back to Unite Pieces channel, and today we are going to tell you about a drama, comedy, and action movie, titled The Pacifier. The Pacifier tells the story of a Navy SEAL soldier who has a large body, the man named Lieutenant Shane Wolfe. One day Shane is given an interesting and unusual task, namely Shane must protect the family of a professor from the target of the criminals. So, make sure you watch this video till the end, for a better experience. The movie begins with a scene on the seafront when a Navy lieutenant named Shane Wolfe leads his troops to free a professor named Howard Plummer, who was kidnapped by rebels from Serbia. They dive and surround a ship, then attack the crew one by one. And Shane immediately gets on the ship and heads to the location where Howard is being held. Shane finally manages to free Professor Howard, and as they prepare to board the helicopter, Howard asks for time to call his wife first, to inform her that he is still alive. Shane allows it, but in a short time because they have to leave immediately. Professor Howard opened his briefcase by mentioning a password, then the briefcase opened. Shane got into the helicopter first. When Shane entered, Shane found the helicopter pilot was unconscious. Then Shane immediately ran out to see the state of the professor, but suddenly a shot hit his body. 2 months later, Shane was declared recovered, and was discharged from the Navy's Special Handling Hospital. But unfortunately, Howard died in the incident at that time. The next scene, Shane is seen walking in the hospital corridor along with Captain Bill. Bill tells if there is a further mission that must be done by Shane. Howard has created a program that will disrupt the launch code called Ghost, and the program is very good for maintaining the security of the country, and that is why the rebels from Serbia at that time kidnapped him. Captain Bill thought that Ghost was in the suitcase carried by Howard. Now, Shane's mission is to keep the Howard family safe from criminals. Inevitably Shane must agree to it, because this is part of the mission. Arriving at Professor Howard's house, Shane was greeted by Julie Plummer, wife of the late Howard. Julie then introduced her children one by one, starting with the biggest one named Zoe, then Seth, then Lulu, Peter, and finally Taylor. Soon Julie said that she had to go to take care of the suitcase left by Howard, because the suitcase was considered to contain confidential state information. Julie left the children, and asked Shane to look after them. After that, Shane began to carry out his work and make rules in the house. Shane even put tracking bracelets on them, so that they could be monitored by him wherever they were. But, the children in the house did not like the rules made by Shane, especially the two biggest children, Zoe and Seth. Things got even more complicated after their nanny, Helga, chose to leave because she could no longer stand the children's mischief. As the day progressed, Shane began to get used to changing diapers, to learning the Peter Panda dance to make Taylor fall asleep. The next day, when they were going to breakfast, suddenly Peter pulled the tablecloth and knocked all the food down. Not having time to get angry, suddenly the phone rang, which turned out to be a call from the school, which informed that if Zoe and Seth were late again then they would be suspended from school. Shane quickly tied the sling on his body, then put the bottle of milk drink on the sling tie on his stomach, and after that immediately spurred the car at high speed, so as not to be late for school. The children inside screamed hysterically, but they arrived at school safely and on time. When they arrived at the principal's room, a man named Dwayne Murney, who was the vice principal, welcomed them. Murney introduced himself as the vice principal and wrestling coach. Murney teased the big Shane as a nanny, and said that Seth was the worst student in the school. Then suddenly the principal, Claire, entered and ordered Murney to leave his chair. Then Claire asked the children to immediately go to their classes. After that Shane was seen outside the school accompanying Peter and Taylor, while occasionally monitoring Zoe, Seth and Lulu. Then Claire came up to him and greeted him, but suddenly the radar signal sounded, indicating that one of the children was out of his reach. Shane immediately left and left Taylor to Claire. Shane ran to the car and immediately drove at high speed, following the direction of the signal was located. The car crashed into the guardrail of a project, and Shane immediately entered the water channel according to the signal from the bracelet. Shane immediately jumped to pick up the bracelet that turned out to be deliberately thrown away by Lulu, and there was a paper next to it containing a taunt. Shane arrived home in a very dirty and smelly body and clothes. In the front room, Claire, who was gathering, suddenly turned to Shane. They all looked at her with a disgusted look. Claire immediately excused herself, after which Shane rushed to take a shower and cleaned his whole body very hard. After that, Shane accompanied Lulu and her friends to go to sell cakes in front of the store. When Shane was shopping, suddenly a group of naughty boys came and ruined their cakes. Lulu and her friends immediately ran and hid behind the car, until Shane found them through the bracelet signal on his hand. Shane immediately took them home, and when they returned, Shane was surprised to see their house filled with teenagers who were having a party. Apparently, Zoe invited her friends to party. Seeing that, Shane immediately punished Zoe and her friends to clean the house. While they were cleaning, we could see that outside the window there were two people dressed in black sneaking suspiciously. After everyone went home, Shane asked the children to gather, but Zoe was angry at Shane's actions. Zoe felt ashamed of her schoolmates. Before Shane could answer, suddenly from the window the two suspicious people from before immediately entered and attacked them. Shane immediately ordered the children to hide and go into the room, while he would face them. Because Shane is a trained soldier, Shane easily confronted them, but they both managed to escape. After the incident, Zoe and her siblings began to believe that Shane was protecting them. From then on they began to follow the rules made by Shane. The next day in the principal's office, Seth was again summoned by the principal because Seth skipped wrestling class. Upon returning home, Shane urged Seth to join the wrestling class, but Seth refused angrily, saying that his heart didn't want to be in wrestling class. Then Seth ran out of his house. Shane immediately chased him on an old bicycle, then saw Seth enter a place. Shane immediately entered the place, and saw that the place turned out to be a rehearsal place for a theater performance. It turns out that Seth has always liked theater, but Seth didn't dare tell people. Shane felt that Seth was a kid with a stand, so Shane decided to help him train in the field he liked. One day, Lulu and her friends started practicing martial arts and were trained directly by Shane, so they could defend themselves when bullied. While Zoe was trained to drive a car until she finally became proficient. One day, Lulu and her friends were selling cakes again, but as before they were visited by naughty boys, but this time Lulu immediately fought back. Armed with the martial arts knowledge that had been taught by Shane, Lulu and her friends finally managed to defeat the group of boys. Meanwhile at school, Seth is approached and insulted by the vice principal, because Murney really hates Seth, who always makes trouble at school. Seeing that, Shane immediately defends him, but arrogantly Murney immediately challenges Shane to a wrestling match and is witnessed by the students. The next day, Shane and Murney are ready to have a wrestling match, and the students are enthusiastically watching their match. It can be seen that Murney underestimates Shane and is eager to humiliate him, while Shane just stands still and casually faces provocations from Murney. When Murney attacks him, Shane only needs one move to knock him down. Murney tries to attack Shane again, but still with one move Shane easily knocks him down. Finally, the vice principal is defeated. The scene then moves to a secret government place, where it can be seen that Julie and Captain Bill, trying to open the box left by Howard. But after opening it turns out that inside the box is not Ghost. After knowing that, Julie immediately went home to look for another suitcase that might be hidden by her late husband. The next day, Shane entered the garage at the house, and accidentally saw the entrance to the suspicious basement. After entering it, it turned out that it was the place where Ghost was stored and hidden. Shane immediately called Captain Bill and told him everything that had just been discovered. Hearing that, Captain Bill and Julie immediately followed to the place. Long story short, Julie arrived at her house. Julie thought that the children must have messed up the house while she was away. However, Julie was very surprised when she saw a very clean and quiet house situation. She was even more surprised when she entered the living room to see all her children standing and waiting for her arrival. Shane and Bill immediately headed to the basement to see the ghost storage, but suddenly two people dressed in black confronted them, which turned out to be two robbers who were their neighbors. The two robbers pointed a gun at them and asked Shane to hand over the key, and when they got closer to take the key, Shane immediately beat him. But suddenly Captain Bill beat him unconscious. It turned out that Captain Bill conspired with the two robbers to take the key and take Ghost. It was revealed that Bill wanted to sell the program to North Korea at a very expensive price. Bill and the two robbers went back into the house and held the children, then took Julie to the basement to get Ghost. While in the basement, Bill told the female robber to come forward, but it turned out that the room was filled with traps, which burned the woman's hair. Meanwhile in the house, Lulu managed to untie her bonds and immediately helped untie her other brother, after which they all attacked the male robber and locked him in the room. They immediately ran to Shane and woke him up. Shane also woke up and immediately headed for the basement, while the children drove the car to find police help. In the basement, Bill pointed a gun and threatened Shane to ask him to go ahead and get Ghost and get past the various traps. Suddenly, Shane remembered the dancing and jumping from the Peter Pan song created by Howard. While singing, Shane jumped following the lyrics of the Peter Panda song, and it worked, so Shane managed to get past the various traps. Bill then asked Shane to hand over the Ghost, and when Shane was about to hand over, Shane immediately attacked Bill until finally Bai could not move. Shane and Julie left the place, then the children arrived followed by several police officers. Shortly thereafter, the robber who was previously locked in the room appeared and pointed his gun at the police. The robber then asked Shannar to hand over Ghost. Reluctantly, Shane will hand it over, but suddenly their pet duck approached the robber, and Shane asked the duck to bite the ball from the robber. Immediately after that, the police arrested the robber and Bill, who was still in the basement. Finally, Shane's mission was successful, even while revealing the truth that Captain Bill was a miserly person. Shane secured Ghost and also took care of the Howard family, and that's how the movie ended. This movie teaches us about patience, responsibility, and of course family. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and see you tomorrow.